Hello, and welcome to a new investigation on the channel. Today we are going to tackle a subject that, despite generating millions of Google searches every year, remains surrounded by uncomfortable silence, a lot of anxiety, and, unfortunately, dangerous misinformation. We are talking about penis size, but we aren't going to discuss rumors or what you see in movies. Today, we are talking strictly about data. Did you know there is a very common mistake men make when measuring that causes the majority to believe they are smaller than they actually are? Later on, I will explain the exact technique known clinically as the bone-pressed method, which completely changes the results. But first, I want to share something we discovered while reviewing the medical archives of specialists like the renowned Dr. Laura Rodriguez. It turns out that 95% of men who go to a doctor worried about their size are actually perfectly healthy and within the normal medical range. It is a phenomenon that is both fascinating and sad. Imagine for a moment Michael, a fictional name for a very real case. Michael has a normal anatomy, but lives in distress because he compares his body to what he sees online. What Michael doesn't know is that the adult entertainment industry uses specific camera lenses, perspective tricks, and digital editing to create optical illusions that simply do not exist in real life. Experts like Dr. Rodriguez point out that this visual distortion has created an epidemic of insecurity. And here is a fact that might put your mind at ease. While over 50% of men admit to feeling anxiety about their measurements, statistics reveal that only about 5 to 10% of women consider size to be a determining factor for a satisfactory relationship. The gap between what men think matters and what actually matters is massive. So, to calm that anxiety, we need to define what is scientifically normal. And to know that, you first need to know how to measure. Pay attention, because this is where most people fail. According to clinical protocols used by Dr. Rodriguez and urologists worldwide, there are two key dimensions: length and girth. For length, the most reliable method isn't just looking at it. Science uses the flaccid stretched length because it has an almost exact correlation with erect size. The correct procedure is as follows. You need a rigid ruler or a measuring tape. Place it on the dorsal side, the top of the penis. But here is the secret. You must press against the pubic bone. You have to gently push past the suprapubic fat pad until you touch the bone. If you don't do this, and you only measure from the skin, you are losing valuable inches in your measurement and getting false data. From the bone, stretch the organ firmly but without pain to the tip of the glands. That is your real measurement. For girth, or circumference, use a flexible measuring tape around the midshaft. Not at the base, not at the tip. Now that you have the numbers, let's compare them against the largest database in existence. This comes from a famous meta-analysis published in scientific journals that gathered data from over 15,000 men globally. The results will surprise you. If your length, whether erect or stretched flaccid, falls between 4 and 6.3 inches, that is roughly 10 to 16 centimeters, congratulations, you belong to the vast majority. The exact global average hovers around 5.2 inches, or 13.2 centimeters. If you are in that range, you are the statistical norm. Medically, the term micropenis is only used when the stretched length is less than 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. On the other side, a macropenis, which is extremely rare, exceeds 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. Everything in between is normal. Regarding girth, the average erect circumference is around 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters. But what happens if, even knowing this, someone insists on wanting to increase their size? This is where we enter dangerous territory, full of risks that Dr. Rodriguez often warns about very seriously. Procedures exist, yes, but they are not all what they seem. Let's talk about girth first. Currently, the use of hyaluronic acid has become popular. This is a substance the body absorbs over time. According to experts, it can temporarily increase the perimeter and is relatively safe if done by a professional. But be careful, the effect disappears in a year or so. The real danger, and please listen closely to this, lies in permanent fillers. There are underground or unethical clinics that offer to inject biopolymers, industrial silicone, or PMMA. Dr. Rodriguez is very clear on this. Never do it. These substances can migrate, create nodules as hard as rocks, cause chronic infections, and lead to deformities so severe that the only solution ends up being the removal of tissue. It is playing Russian roulette with your health. Now, what about length? Can it be lengthened? The short answer is complex. There is a surgery called ligamentolysis, which involves cutting the suspensory ligament. Basically, they cut the ligament that holds the penis up and close to the pelvic bone. By cutting it, the organ drops more and appears longer when flaccid. But, and this is a big but, it does not gain real length during an erection. In fact, by losing that support, the erection can become unstable and point downwards, making intimacy difficult. Additionally, scar tissue can retract and leave you with less length than you started with. That is why international medical associations do not recommend these surgeries for purely cosmetic purposes. Many people also ask about implants. It is important to clarify that penile implants are devices designed for men with severe erectile dysfunction who do not respond to medication. They are not for enlarging aesthetically. They are for recovering a lost function. Before we wrap up, I promised you a historical fact that would change your perspective. If you ever visit a museum and look at classic Greek statues, you will notice that the heroes, gods, and athletes have small genitals. This was not a mistake by the sculptor. In ancient Greece, a small and compact penis was a symbol of intelligence, self-control, rationality, and high morals. Conversely, large and exaggerated sizes were associated with barbarians, beasts, satyrs, and men who could not control their primitive instincts. They were seen as vulgar and comical. This proves something fundamental. The ideal of beauty is just a cultural trend. It changes over centuries. What worries you today, 2,000 years ago, would have made you the ideal of perfection. In conclusion, and echoing the words of experts like Dr. Rodriguez, most insecurities do not come from a physical problem, but from a mind bombarded by unrealistic expectations. Your worth, your attractiveness, and your ability to give pleasure are not measured in inches, but in your confidence, your health, and your connection with your partner. If this investigation helped you see things more clearly and breathe a little easier, I invite you to subscribe. Here, we will continue to analyze health and science with the truth up front, without taboos. Thanks for joining us, and see you in the next video.